So what we've got going on is we've got some people that are conning the United States government. Got a little deal called U visas. What is a U visa, you might ask? Well, it's a visa you get. Federal government set it up for. It can expedite your green card. It can expedite your getting citizenship. You have to be a victim of a crime. You got to be a victim of a crime. The crazy thing about this story is that the crimes that have been faked, I don't believe qualify for a U visa. This story's been out for, the criminal charges have been going. The criminal charges have been going since like 2022. And I've seen stories back as far as 2021 with, is this a U visa, fraud case, scam case? And if you hit the Google machine with U visa scam, you'll see just a bunch of cases. And we're going to go through one in particular. And to me, what is nutty is that none of these cases qualify for the U visa. It's like they didn't read the criteria, and we're going to go through that as well. Let's get into it. So what has happened is 6 defendants indicted. We got a recent indictment. That's what's kind of triggered the resurgence of this news story. 6 defendants indicted on federal fraud charge for allegedly, let's get this up, for allegedly staging robberies to apply for immigration visas. This is the United States Attorney's Office, Northern District of Illinois. They put out a statement on this. And let's look real quick so you guys get an idea. Qualifying criminal activities. Here's kind of the overall. You may be eligible for a U non-immigrant visa if you're victim of a qualifying criminal activity. All right. So if you're a victim of a qualifying criminal activity, you've suffered physical and mental abuse, you have information about the criminal activity, so you can tattle on whomever, give the government some good info on your fellow co-conspirators, right? You are helpful if you're likely to be helpful to law enforcement. They want your information. They want you to tattle on others involved in the crime. The crime occurred in the United States, or violated U.S. laws. You're admissible for the United States if bunch of stuff. Now, here are the qualifying criminal activities. I'm just going to read a handful. Abduction, abusive sexual contact, blackmail, domestic violence, extortion, false imprisonment, female genital mutilation. We got assault. We got manslaughter, kidnapping, murder, obstruction of justice. Peonage. I had never even heard of that word. It's like indentured servitude or forced labor, right? Prostitution, the R words, sexual assault. You got torture. You got trafficking, witness tampering, unlawful criminal restraint. Not once was it indicated in there, hey, if you're a victim of just an armed robbery. I'm not seeing that. Felonious assault, you get hammered down, little beat down, little punch down. Yeah, maybe. But, you're held hostage. None of the criminal activity that I saw that were part of this case seemed to qualify. I don't know. I mean, are these people just, they're just thinking, well, if I get involved in a crime, I'm going to get a U visa. Is that what we're doing? It kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Kind of seems that way. So you've got this indictment going on. Let's watch a little video from this gal. Got a little TikTok video. She's an attorney.
I share these stories with you guys to let you know that the government watches. And if you fall out of line or try to fool them, you're going to get caught. A 33-year-old Indian national living in Pennsylvania has been convicted on multiple counts of charges related to visa fraud and conspiracy. The man, who is a manager of a convenience store, orchestrated a staged robbery at his own store. Then he used the robbery report to apply for a U visa, which is given to non-citizens who are victims of a crime and who cooperate with law enforcement. The man did not have lawful immigration status in the U.S. at the time of the robbery, and the FBI and the Pennsylvania State Police and Clinton County District Attorney's Office investigated the crime and found that the robbery had been staged. Now he's facing a maximum penalty of 25 years in prison, followed by supervised release, as well as a fine and probably deportation.
Most likely he will be deported. Yeah, this is from Law and Crime. Fake robbery ring targeted Dunkin and Subway in plot to get special crime victim visas, feds say. My whole thing is it doesn't qualify. These people are just, they don't know, right? They're willing to try anything. Let's give this a run. It's a crime, and everybody's so used to having armed robbery that it's just no big deal. All right, yeah, we'll just throw together a little scam here, a little scammy scam. A half dozen men accused of faking armed robberies at Dunkin and Subway and other businesses so they could pull off a scheme in applying for a special type of non-immigration visa. Typically, genuine victims of crimes have been indicted. The criminal indictment filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois. So we've got Parth Nye, 26. We've got Kiwan Young, 31. We've got a Patel at 51. We've got Nilesh Patel, 32. We've got Ravibanan Patel, 23. And Rakjanagamukur Patel, 32. You got 6 defendants that were indicted. Defendants hail from multiple states, including Illinois. You got Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Wisconsin, and Florida. One of the stories I read was in Louisiana. So this indictment covers multiple states and residents from multiple states. And to me, it's people gaming the system. They are gaming the system any which way they can. And the U visa, I mean, it is a wide range of criminal activity that, I mean, it's like almost everything but robbery, right? It's a wide range of criminal activity that doesn't necessarily include the crimes we're talking about here. Why didn't they, fake a kidnapping? I don't know, right? It's like, I got a store. Let's just go ahead and we'll do a self-robbery. It'll just be great. Prosecutors say that between July of 2022 and January of 2024, the defendants conspired with each other to obtain something known as a non-immigrant U visa by staging the robberies at various businesses, including restaurants, gas stations, liquor stores, and elsewhere. And just wherever they could work it out. I mean, who would have thought that the U.S. government, sets up this thing to try and, get them to have people basically tattle on each other for criminal activity. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm seeing it, right? And if you tattle, we'll help you out with your U visa status. So they're working this angle. And if you do Google this, you will come up with a bunch of YouTube videos that indicates which kind of crimes, qualify for this instance. And we read the list, and for the most part, it's pretty horrific stuff, right? So if you are a victim of that, then you might qualify. You just send in your application and all right. The big question I have is how helpful do you have to be to the U.S. government to get your U visa? You know what I mean? It's like when there's $1 million reward for return of somebody that's out on bail, it's out on bond, and $1 million reward. It's like, okay, what information exactly qualifies to receive that reward? You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, who is getting the U visas? Yeah. I mean, this is way outside of the realm of what I normally cover, but the whole illegal immigration thing, it's having so much pressure put on it because I think folks are going, you know what? There's a chance Trump might win. And if he does, and he's already said he's going to, what did he say lately? 20 million people will be deported. Now, physically, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think physically they can deport that many people. Could you imagine? I mean, it would just put a standstill on basically everything. 20 million people all of a sudden get deported. All right. We're going to tie up all the airports, tie up all the buses, tie up all the trains, just getting people to wherever, No, I mean, it's going to have to be systematic, whatever it ends up being. But I think there's pressure on this notion of, you know what? Maybe the days of just coming in by the hundreds of thousands in a month are over. Maybe that's over. Maybe we need to get in now. We need to get in now and go. So they're trying anything. And, how long have these folks been in the United States already that have basically grocery stores, but don't have maybe they've got a green card. I don't know, but it's my understanding that this is how you get a green card. But these folks they already have shops, right? A couple of them already have shops, and they're basically, putting together criminal activity that allows other people, all right, you were a victim of a crime. Therefore, you get the U visa. So people paid the men thousands of dollars to participate in the fake robberies and subsequently the phony police reports, according to the recently unsealed indictment. So that's what we're talking about. You've got this indictment that people are looking at going, holy cow, you doing what? Because you know darn well, if there's, this one case with the 6 people being indicted, it's happening all over. It's happening by the thousand, guaranteed. There's this going on. These aren't the first criminals to come up with this and basically go down. Okay, yeah, hey, maybe that's an angle that we want to try. Let's throw out robbery. Let's do an inside job robbery and see what happens. We'll just see what happens. This happens. You get a little indictment action. So Ney and Young are accused of executing staged robberies at Subway in Chicago, as well as Subway in Elmwood Park. Subway. Well, they must have owned the Subways, right? Their franchise. That seems weird, doesn't it? Subway's an expensive franchise. The staged robberies happened within weeks of each other and continued with the conspirators regularly popping up at Dunkin Donuts, formerly Dunkin Donuts. Is it just called Dunkin now? Did I miss the transition to donuts? Is that kind of like Kentucky Fried Chicken just going to KFC? Now we can't say fat anymore. We can't say fried. We can't say donuts. We're just going to call it Dunkin. I understand Dunkin Donuts or just Dunkin. Their coffee is really good. Is that right? A lot of people talk about the coffee. I don't drink coffee, but yeah, I know lots of folks do. Locations in Chicago, as well as Tropical Smoothie Cafe in St. Charles, Illinois. So, and we've also got as a 7-Eleven store and a number of other businesses in the Chicago area. Dunkin in Chicago may have been a preferred target. The indictment shows the defendant staged robberies at those locations more than 4 times over the span of the alleged scheme. Prosecutors say the applications from the defendants for U visas came in swiftly after the robberies. Guys, you got to give it some time. If you're going to do a scam robbery, you can't just be itching to get in there and get your visa going. You got to give it a little bit of breathing room. You got to let the story unfold, right? Got to let people check in on the story. Nope, need my visa. Otherwise, you just make it too obvious, right? You just make it too obvious. Too easy for law enforcement to put together the pieces and just kind of go with this. So one of the staged robberies that took place at a liquor store last July ended up with a 26-year-old clerk being shot. Well, I mean, that does lend a certain amount of authenticity to the crime, doesn't it? Can you imagine conversation afterwards? Hey, I paid you thousands of dollars. I don't even know what these, what the scam is. I paid you hundreds of dollars. I paid you thousands of dollars. And nowhere in our verbal contract did it say you were going to shoot me. Right? All I guaranteed is that you'd be robbed. You'd be robbed at my establishment. And instead, you got a 26-year-old clerk being shot. Right? Don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. That's not part of the deal. All right. But, things get out of hand in a robbery, a quote unquote robbery. And here's where you go. The conspiracy charges are punishable by a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison, and the false statement charge is punishable by up to 10 years. There's a whole bunch of other charges that are going on here that, it could rack up some big years imprisonment. But is that going to happen in Chicago? Are we arresting and incarcerating anybody for anything? Sure doesn't seem like it, does it? No. Seattle? How about my ridiculous University of Washington on Monday, yesterday, the people, the Antifa that was, LARPing, they were live action role playing as, freedom fighters for Hamas. They basically just got pushed out, and yesterday they had to close up shop, take their tents, and get the F out. City school administrator just said, nope, you guys are done. You guys are done. Just gone, done. I was hoping for more of a chop style kind of shutdown, but that didn't happen. They just took their tents and left, and they got a couple of things, but yeah, just crazy stuff going on. And nobody will do any time for any of the criminal activity there either. That's my point. You can just go in and, like down in Portland State, just destroy a library. It's okay. It's all right, guys. You guys are fine. We'll charge a couple of people that did the absolute worst, and then, they won't prosecute them because these are freedom fighters for Hamas. And for whatever reason, everybody's just, Israel's the oppressor. Hamas is great. Yeah, well, that whole October 7th thing. Here's another side story. This is Department of Justice says 2023 robbery, and in quotes. All right, yeah, robbery in quotes, because it wasn't a robbery. It was part of a multi-state fraud scheme. Apparent armed robbery at a Subway restaurant in Rayne, Louisiana in 2023 was part of a multi-state visa fraud scheme. An indictment unsealed. We talked about that. This is the same one. All those folks are charged with conspiracy to commit visa fraud. The indictment alleges that individuals paid Naya thousands of dollars to participate in the scam. During the staged robberies, individuals acting as robbers brandished what appeared to be firearms, approached the purported victims, and demanded money and property. The indictment states it's still a head scratcher because that doesn't really qualify as a crime that they're handing out U visas for. So am I missing something here? Am I missing something? This just makes no sense. But this whole thing makes no sense. Allowing literally millions of people into the United States makes no sense. So what we're dealing with, whatever, right? I mean, Young was arrested on a warrant from the Rayne Police Department stemming from an incident May 13, 2023 at the Rayne Subway. Rayne detectives worked with federal investigators across the country to build cases against those involved in the alleged fraud. So look at all the resources and time they spent on this one, working on these 6 people. And you've literally got another one of the articles here goes on to state that I think, there's 140,000 people that are waitlisted for green cards as victims right now. 140,000 people. So we got 6. Not saying out of the 140,000 people, they're all fraudsters, because odds of that are none, right? But there's more than 6 in there that have clearly gone down this road. That's happened. So we got the 6 individuals, and they were indicted last Friday in connection with this scheme against the U.S. government, and more arrests are expected in the near future. Several other robberies were staged in Illinois and Tennessee. Those posing as victims allegedly staged the robberies so that they could submit, which we talked about. And if you've been helpful enough, maybe they give you one. I don't know. Afterwards, some of the purported victims submitted forms to local law enforcement to obtain certification that they were victims of a qualifying crime and had been or would be helpful in the investigation, the indictment states. So not all of this criminal activity could have happened unless somebody had success with this. Oh, you're a victim of armed robbery. Oh, okay. Tell us what you know. When everybody's in on the same criminal activity, though, doesn't that seem like that would pose a little bit of a risk to the integrity of what they're trying to accomplish here, which is get that U visa? It does to me, too. Upon receiving certification, some of the purported victims then submitted fraudulent U visa applications to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration, predicated upon their alleged status as a robbery victim. Yeah, head scratcher. But we're just okay, so robbery, you're a victim of some kind of criminal activity. When I was first researching this, I was thinking that most of the time the criminal activity that these folks are reporting happened back in the country they escaped from. That makes sense, right? But in this case, it's literally happened in the United States. In the United States. And you're like, okay, so you're already here illegally. And then a crime happens against you, and then you report it, and then you tell the local police what you know, and then somehow you're awarded a U visa. I mean, yeah, right? So it's absolutely nuts that this is the system. But then again, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't this just be, kind of what we're doing? This is the main article. This is kind of the main one that's been going around. Hundreds paid to be robbed by phony holdup crews to gain favorable immigration status, feds say. Federal prosecutors on Friday. Yep, we read about that. CWB Chicago had been working behind the scenes on this story, but withheld publication until charges were announced at the request of our sources. Now we can tell you the incredible details. Officials believe, we went through that. So they're becoming victims of prearranged armed robberies. I mean, can't you just see this thing going sideways so many different ways, including a store clerk getting shot? Well, I'd have to say that store clerk, that was shot with a real gun, right? There's some question. Hey, did they actually have real weapons when they did this? Well, that shopkeeper is going to go, yes, they did. Yes, they did. Here's the bullet hole that went through my shoulder. During a staged holdup in Bucktown last year, one of the robbers accidentally fired their gun, severely injuring a liquor store clerk, according to one source. During that caper alone, 5 customers were robbed. Suspicions. The staged robbery crew operated professionally, we are told. They used stolen cars and sometimes outfitted them with plates taken from other cars, for example. They had a second getaway car on standby. There were obvious signs of advanced planning and know-how. But cops started to get suspicious. Why would 4 or 5 seasoned armed robbers go through all of that trouble for robberies that netted them virtually no cash? Yeah. So, guys, you got to make this more convincing, and you got to wait a while before you go in there for that U visa, right? Most victims had only a few dollars with them, and the stores generally lost less than $100. So investigators are going, this doesn't make a lot of sense. They're not getting normal money you'd get out of even a small time robbery. Why were robbery victims going to stores to buy something without taking enough cash or a credit card? Ooh, we're doing some thinking there. Investigators are doing some thinking. Hey, you showed up and you're going to buy whatever. You're going to buy a Subway meal. What is that, about $100 now? No, I mean, you got to bring like probably $20 for a couple of sandwiches, right, at Subway. And they're not bringing that much. So investigators are going, this doesn't add up. What is the deal? This isn't really making sense. Yet, despite the low return on their investment, the robbers kept working 2 or 3 nights a week for at least 2 years, an investigative source believes. I mean, how many robberies did they do? The police finally caught a break when they arrested one of the fake robbery teams. All of the members were juveniles, and almost none of them had histories of committing serious crimes. They were also more than happy to tell the police that the robberies were staged, that the victims were in on it, but they didn't know why. Bunch of kids blew it. They just blew it, right? They're young. They're not going to get busted. Even if they get busted, they're not going to do any time. They're juveniles. They're in on it too. So big question. How many of these crimes, purported crimes, alleged crimes, actually happened? If they're, what'd we say? The robbers kept working 2 or 3 nights a week for at least 2 years. So, couple hundred, few hundred. I mean, the math makes sense, right? Maybe 400. You got 2 a week. That's 100. Yeah, 2 years, a couple hundred, probably a couple hundred. So those darn kids, they just blew it, didn't they? Federal prosecutor said on Friday that each purported victim paid thousands of dollars for the privilege of being robbed at gunpoint. Ringleaders then instructed the victims to be at a certain location at a specific time to be robbed. Hey, you got to show up. We got to be able to rob you. They will rob you. This must have had so many little clues of, this doesn't make sense. This isn't adding up. All right. How much money did you get robbed of? $5. Yeah, it's the third $5 robbery today at a at a 7-Eleven, at a liquor store, at a Subway's. What's going on here? Ultimately, state prosecutors either dropped charges or decided against filing charges against the robbers, two sources said. After all, was it really a robbery if the victim asked them to do it? There's a good question. Is it really a crime if you're in on it, right? If you're in on it. It's kind of like with you're talking about the protests, the mostly peaceful protests down in Portland at Portland State University that's going to cost way over $1 million to put the library back together, even though they did save the special collection of books that was in there. They saved that. But some of the talk that's been around that whole issue is, okay, so these universities are going to go to their insurance companies and say, hey, we got $300,000 worth of damage here. We got close to $1 million worth of damage. And that's not even the damage to the computers and all the infrastructure like that. It's just physically the structure of the library, doors being graffitied, stuff being destroyed, furniture being destroyed. Is it an insurable claim if you've allowed people to come into your property and just take over, allow Antifa to take over? Is that an insurable crime? Is that a crime? Is that a crime? Is that an accident that, insurance should be covering? And so many people have basically said, no, heck no. No, that is not, you should not be, people are stating online, absolutely not. It should come out of the administrator's pay that made the decision to allow Antifa to just post up in their library, in their, at University of Washington. It was in the quad. It was kind of in the center area where we've got all the Japanese trees that are blooming, that are just epic. Now, you got a whole bunch of tents, kids playing, and, losers. They are losers. They are straight up losers playing at life because they're trying to influence something that the whole cause and effect of these protests on these campuses has just been, to me, it's been a head scratcher. It's like, you're doing what for what? Why? That's stupid. That makes no sense at all. But the big question has been, okay, if you allow somebody into your school, should insurance pay for that? No, absolutely not. I think school administrators who made that decision, they should pay for it. There should be some kind of repercussions. All right, you let this happen. You let them in. You didn't bring the cops in. I think that if they did everything within their means to get these people out immediately and some damage was done, okay, yeah, you tried to cap it as early on as you could. And this is how far you got. All right, you didn't get very far. And the criminals Antifa didn't get very far either. But is this a robbery? Are there actual charges to be filed? It's fraud, right? It's straight up fraud. That's what you got going on. And you've got visa victim fraud going on. Ultimately, state prosecutors either dropped charges or decided against filing charges. Because is it really a robbery if the victim asked them to do it? Yeah, not as much, right? Not as much. But still, there's got to be some criminal liability there. And how about all those, without filing charges, how about all those, other couple hundred instances where charges didn't get filed, and yet, on record, somebody's got I got impacted at this robbery, and they get a U visa. It didn't matter that the teens typically netted only a few dollars from the customers and maybe a little more from the store cash drawer. Cash payments from the scheme's organizers supplemented their income, officials say. So people who organized it paid everybody out. They paid everybody out. That's what made sense. Federal prosecutors said the robbers occasionally hit their victims, hoping to give the robberies an air of legitimacy. All right, I'm going to need you to hit me right here. Just hit me right and make it bruise, but don't break my cheekbone. Don't break my cheek. No, don't hit me in the stomach. I'm not going to get a big bruise there. Maybe you could, give me a little blow to a rib. Maybe you could, just a little rib action where I can just lift up my shirt and go, he hit me. But things took a serious turn on July 13th of 2023. That's when one of the robbery crews entered Bucktown Food and Liquor at 1950 North Milwaukee for a scheduled performance. So I'm reading this article. For a scheduled performance. All right, it's one of our 2 or 3 performances this week. Let's get the show on the road, guys. We have got a performance to put on. Around 9:23 p.m., 3 robbers, all masked and each armed with a handgun, entered the store and ordered 5 people inside to surrender their wallets, police said at the time. Could you imagine being somebody that's in there and you're not in on it? And you're like, what is going on? This is the weirdest robbery I have ever seen. And I've been in Chicago a long time and I've seen a lot of robberies. What in the world is going on? Don't you think you probably have that reaction? What? We're doing what? That guy hit that guy. He didn't hit him very hard. It looked fake. It looked like wrestling back when you were a kid and you didn't quite know if wrestling was real or not. You wanted to believe that it was real. And your parents told you it wasn't real, but you still wanted to believe it was real. That guy really smacked that guy. Yeah. As the phony robbery unfolded, one of the crew members unintentionally fired their gun. Oops, not good. Striking a 26-year-old store employee in the abdomen. But you know what? I mean, that does add a certain sense of reality, doesn't it? Yeah. How'd it go? Yeah, pretty good up until until I shot the store employee. Not good. That's going to leave a mark. He was critically injured, but he survived. The robbers ran out, booking it out. Good Lord, we shot a guy. And jumped into a Kia that had been reported stolen from the 2600 block of West Hadorn in Humboldt Park earlier in the day. It's always a Kia, isn't it? We're not even hearing about Hyundais anymore. It's just Kia, because they're just so easy to break into. After the robberies, the victims went to their local police departments to secure documentation that they were the victims of a crime that qualified them to apply for a U visa. That's an immigration status reserved for victims of certain crimes who have suffered mental. We talked about all that, a federal official explained Friday. Some relatives of U visa recipients also qualify for special status. Oh, do you get the feeling that we're just handing out green cards willy-nilly? Just shenanigans, just send them out, give them a green card. Oh, it's a relative? Oh, it's a third cousin once removed? You betcha. Give them a U visa. Give them a green card. Give them status. Give them whatever. Doesn't it feel like that's kind of just what's going on? And this whole thing here, who came up with this U visa plan, right? Who came up with this? I mean, does this make any sense at all? I mean, it does for the illegals trying to get into the country legally, doesn't it? 140,000 stacked up for green cards. Man. So some relatives will qualify in time. This is the kicker. In time, U visa recipients may qualify for permanent residency. It's a way to get your citizenship. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't they come up with this criminal activity? I mean, makes sense to me. You know, they came into the country illegally. They know that there's virtually no impact for whatever criminal activity they're going to do. They're probably not going to get deported. I mean, are we deporting anybody in Chicago? Are we deporting anybody anywhere? It doesn't seem like it, does it? Now, people are being deported. It's just the numbers, the influx numbers versus the ones going out. Those numbers are wildly upside down. Charges filed. United States Attorney's Office in Chicago filed charges against only 6 people Friday, including the ringleaders. We talked about that. We're told investigators believe Nayi and Young met while working together at a Subway restaurant. Imagine talking on break. Hey, that U visa thing. What if we scammed that? Nayi allegedly recruited interested immigrants while Young managed the robbery crews. I got the inside job on this one. You're going to work with the illegals out there. Give them a gun. Don't put any bullets in it. No bullets. I don't want to get shot. Gosh darn it, you shot me. What is up with that? Oh, got shot in the abdomen. Not good. A source said investigators believe Young may have participated in a handful of robberies, but he was more of an organizer. He was more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, telling the teens where to go and when to be there. Officials believe Nayi and Young pocketed the fees paid by each victim, although Young allegedly passed along a small amount to the robbers to supplement the paltry proceeds they collected during each holdup. There's equity for you, folks. Everybody got paid. Maybe not equal, but you know what DEI stands for? Didn't earn it. These guys earned it. These guys are earning illegitimate proceeds during a scam mock robbery. And I put robbery, an alleged robbery, because the whole thing is just, it's made up. It's absolutely made up. The men are charged with conspiracy to commit visa fraud. There you go. It's not this Mickey Mouse charges of, you robbed us. You got $10. Visa fraud, along with 4 others. So then we've also got making so Ravin Ben Patel is also charged with making a false statement in a visa application. Man, how about Hunter Biden? He's got that criminal case, that federal case going with the gun that he purchased while during that same time period he's whacked out of his mind on drugs. I know that one is going through the court case as long as Trump's is as well. All these court cases just flying around, right? And you're like, is anything really going to come out of any of this? Or are we just spinning our wheels endlessly? A source stated that hundreds of additional victims involved in the robbery, so many quotes in this story, because quotes are basically the shenanigans that took place, right? These are absolute criminal activity shenanigans. Many from out of state are unlikely to face federal charges. So they said officials had identified more than 100 people who benefited from being robbed, with most being of Latin and South American origin. Yeah, I mean, there's the pattern, right? I mean, it's not going to be that hard to work the pattern backwards. And anybody involved, all right, let's see what victims there were out there. Let's see very quickly if they applied for a U visa within the last XYZ. Oh, they did. Oh, you did. Oh, you did too. Interesting. All right, guys, we're going to need to have a little chat. We're just going to need to have a sit down and kind of go over the details of why all of you miraculously need a U visa as the result of being victims of this crime. The federal complaint identified 17 specific robberies for charging purposes. We go back to October of 2022 in Lombard, Subway restaurant in Chicago, December 2022. Subway restaurant, Elmwood Park, 2022. Tropical smoothie, mixing it up a little bit in St. Charles. Dunkin Donuts in Chicago. We got a BP gas station in Hickory Hills. All right, again, mixing it up. Then we go Dunkin Donuts. Then we got Max's Food and Liquor in River Grove. We got Lake Villa Liquors. You see the pattern. I mean, but most of them were Dunkin Donuts. So, and I keep saying donuts, even though donuts isn't in there. In a case apparently not related to the men charged on Friday, a phony robbery at a Houston gas station in January ended with the robber being shot and killed by a witness. Uh-oh, that's not good. Rashad Scott, 22, ran to a couple at the filling station, appeared to be robbing them of their purse and wallet, the Post reported. A bystander killed him as he ran away. Yeah, that's a robbery. That is a fake robbery gone sideways. A fake robbery gone sideways. Could you imagine? How about you find out later you're the Good Samaritan who whipped out his pistol and just took out the supposed robber, and you find out later you killed an individual who was in on a fake robbery. Man, did that mess with your head or what? Yeah. I'm sorry. Cop shows up at your door, tells you the situation, and you just be like, what? Well, I thought he was robbing the guy. Yeah, you did. He wasn't. They were in on it. Oh, you mean I killed somebody accidentally? Police then realized there was a pattern of similar reported robberies and that the victims had applied for or been granted U visas due to their status as victims of these crimes. I'm still at a loss as under what crimes, because the list doesn't. It must just be any kind of crime, right? Just, jaywalking. Oh yeah. U visa. Here you go. You betcha. Trespassing. Oh yeah. Misdemeanor of possession of whatever under the age of 18, alcohol under 21. Yep. All right. U visa for you as well. Doesn't that feel like that's kind of what's going on? CWB Chicago reported in February that a man had recently walked into a Chicago police station to report that he had been robbed at gunpoint while walking out of a fast food chicken restaurant on Christmas Eve, 2006. The man, now 52 years old, brought along his wife. She confirmed his story, saying that he was there with their daughter, who is now 22. The couple told officers that their immigration attorney advised them to report the crime so they can expedite their visa application. You got to tell them. You got to tell them. This is 06. That's part of a crime. So even before this program, I'm sure, was around, right? U visa problems. In December 2022, the recently revealed Chicago-based scheme was ongoing. Injustice Watch published a lengthy story that focused on two Chicago sergeants who denied hundreds of U visa certification requests from undocumented crime victims that year. Good for them. Good for those two Chicago police sergeants. Somebody's doing their job, right? Not to imply that people aren't doing their job, but it seems so often that the police are just hamstrung at what they can do or can't do. And so they end up just like, well, you know, if I arrest these people and district attorney isn't going to prosecute and nobody's going to do anything about it, then what are we even doing here? Why am I even, going down that route? Attorneys and legal advocates who regularly work on U visa applications called the number of denials by Customs and CPD in the last year unprecedented. Chicago Police Department in the last year unprecedented. Said they worried it will discourage Chicago's undocumented immigrants from reporting crimes. Which way do you want to go with your shenanigans? Are you coming or are you going? Don't worry about Chicago's undocumented immigrants from reporting crimes. They're going to report them when they want to. They're going to report it when they need to, right? They've got this. Just work on doing what you need to do. Early last year, the outlet published a follow-up saying Illinois' Attorney General Kwame Raoul's office had responded to its story by launching an investigation. So you got all this stuff going back and forth, and it's like 6 people are indicted. And these stories are just going on full tilt from Sunday, right? Just shenanigans all day. When asked on Tuesday about the status or outcome of that probe, a Raoul spokesperson said the investigation is still ongoing. All of this is kind of just back and forth. What's going to come of it? Are they going to throw some of these folks out of the country? Probably. Maybe, right? I mean, it doesn't seem likely that you're going to go after everybody. They don't have the resources. But these are pretty high profile cases. And with this indictment being basically revealed on Friday, I think you're going to hear a lot more about it. Not from mainstream media, because they don't want to show anybody gaming the illegal immigrant system. They want to show just, everything's great and these people are victims. And, 6 months later, the outlet posted an update. Both measures were co-sponsored by more than 30 council members, and both died unceremoniously without ever coming to a vote. This is after requesting to keep better records and more transparent with its U visa program. These U visas are just being handed out, just willy-nilly, right? I mean, that's the feeling I get. Absolutely insane that, this is going on. But then again, why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't you have this happening just on the daily? You've got a situation where millions of people have been let into the United States, millions of people just roaming around with who knows what kind of visa status, what kind of green card status, what kind of work status. Yeah, you got, I think it's Chicago. No, it's New York City wanting to, decrease the amount of time that the illegals need to get the work visa. It's like you're just cramming a whole bunch of people into the country, not really checking out anything about them, handing out U visas, to the point where you've got scams set up that people are taking advantage of. And then there's folks that are saying, yeah, immigration is a big part of our economy. Well, you've certainly made it a big one when you've let in 7 million, 10 million, a million or two gotaways. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's wacky, isn't it? It's just absolutely nutty. So here is one. This is from the Center for Immigration Studies. Now, the Center for Immigration Studies, they're the ones that they're continually putting out these reports that are getting to the White House, and the White House is going, oh, wait a minute, that's not exactly true. So Center for Immigration Studies, it had to happen. Robberies were faked to create real visas for crime victims. Yeah. I mean, that's literally what you've got going on. You've got one more angle that is happening in the United States, where illegal citizens are taking advantage. They're gaming the system. They're gaming the system with shenanigans. So there was a couple of comments in here. It was really interesting. The two men arrested were Rangma Patel, 36, and Balwinder Singh, 39. It's pretty small writing. Neither the PACER document I examined nor the press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office provided information on their civil status, meaning, are these people, what kind of work visa, what kind of immigration status are they? Patel is a Hindu name and Singh is a Sikh name. While majority Hindus and minority Sikhs do not always get along in India, that did not seem to be a problem in this case because they were in on it. They were in on criminal behavior. They were in on a shenanigan. The U visa for crime victims and their families, and that's in quotes, because you're second cousin twice removed on mom's side. Yeah, you betcha, you get a U visa. Makes little sense to me as a matter of public policy. He's talking about the U visa. Makes little sense. It's like, why are we even doing this? And it has been overused, to put it mildly. Kind of like the whole, just basically releasing all of these illegals once you write their name down in some deal, and you just basically let them go off into the wild, right? And hey, come back for your hearing, if you can make it 4 or 5 years from now. There is a limit of 10,000 a year of these U visas being used to create green cards for victims, and thousands more visas are handed out to family members, and some even go to people who were merely witnessed the crimes. So, I mean, there you go. Did you see it? Did you eyes on the prize? Did you see? Oh yeah. All right. Here's your visa. Feels like that's what's going on, right? Department of Homeland Security report of 4 years ago showed 140,000 people waitlisted for green cards as victims. But if you have a U1 non-immigrant visa, you are legally here until your green card comes through. What Patel and Singh did was, among other things, to add to the growing visa backlog. That's what you got going on. You got people gaming the system, trying their best to get into the country. And this is how they're doing it, right? This is how they're doing it. So now that we've identified this case and now that everybody's aware of this, you probably won't see much about it in the media. Will you see more stories of this kind of ridiculous going on? Maybe. They're not going to shut these cases down. They're not going to shut these attempted robberies down, are they? And that's just not happening. So let the fun continue. I believe. So if you see one of these stories, make sure you send it to me. Getting a lot of good stories from folks sending stuff in, and I appreciate it because I can't cover all the news. I had somebody saying, hey, you do such a great job getting your content out on time. I always feel like I'm kind of running behind. I'm like, but that story came out. I can only, basically 12 stories a week. A few more than that go to the private channel. If you're dying for some more content from me, our private channel, reasonabletv.com, if we got another, at least a couple a week going out of just other stories that are happening that are just kind of wild stuff going on. But if you see a storyline, email it to me. There's always an email. I think in the beginning of the video, one pops up. Send me an email. There's a bunch of different addresses to get stuff to me. But this storyline here, right here, I think it is enough of a story where there's way more people in on this than we're being led to believe. This could be just one of those, oh yeah, remember when that broke? And then you had all these others. Because not that hard to basically put together your own robbery, is it? All right, you got some teenagers, you got the inside guy, you got the outside guy. Let's go. Just don't shoot anybody. Don't shoot anybody. Ooh, yeah. Somebody got shot. Thanks so much for watching this podcast. Love to have you subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.